All right, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So this webinar is going to be about, let's say 30 to 45 minutes long. And I'll be going over why it's important to track your dividends, track your income, the options you have as an income investor to track your dividends. So what are the different methods for tracking? Then I'm going to do a live walkthrough of Divcaster, our proprietary dividend tracking software application. I'm going to go over how to add transactions, how to review the portfolio, how to review the income forecast, the historical income, the portfolio data. I'm going to talk about how to manage a dividend portfolio inside Divcaster. And then I'll take some questions at the end. So just a little repeat. It is so important for income investors to track their dividends. Dividend investing is not the same. It doesn't have the same playbook as capital gains investing or the type of investing that we hear about on TV or we read about mostly on, let's call it CNBC or Market Watch or anything like that. There's a different yardstick to measure success. And the only way to define success as an income investor is how much money is coming in from your stocks. And share prices are not going to be the best way to measure success. So there's a couple different ways to track. I'm going to go over those. There's pros and cons to each. I'm not saying that Divcaster is the panacea. It's right for everybody. But I am saying that it's right for most people. And it has a lot of flexibility and functionality that income investors really benefit from. So I'm really excited to share about Divcaster. This has been a labor of love for me for 3 years now, and we're really starting to hit our stride, and we got a lot of really cool features and plans for what we're doing. We're going to do a really awesome demonstration, and then I'll take questions. Cool. So I really like this quote. It's a quote by Peter Drucker, who is a very famous businessman. And it goes, what gets managed gets measured. So what this quote focuses on is what gets managed. So what you pay attention to, what you have processes around, what you give your attention to gets measured. So by having a lot of touch points around it, by being in the weeds, getting your hands dirty, being very familiar with what you're managing, you'll be able to track that success. And so by tracking how much income you're earning, you can dramatically increase the potential income that you can earn in the future. So if I know exactly how much money is coming in from my dividend stocks each month, then I can be very aware of how I can manipulate that number. And that's what Divcaster does. Divcaster gives you the foundation to build off of. So here's your first option if you want to track your dividends. So you can use an Excel spreadsheet, you can use a notepad, and a notepad is the simplest way to track your dividends. So you control all the inputs and you control what data you'd like to see. And you can do whatever you want. But obviously a notepad is very limited in the functionality. Everything is done manually. You're using a calculator. You're doing all of the data entry by hand. Let's say you misread a number or you fudge a number, that could throw off all of your calculations. Another con of the notepad is it takes a lot of time to collect that data. We're all very busy, or at least I'll speak for myself. I'm a very busy person. The less amount of time that I'm doing manual data entry, the better. I value my time a lot higher than that. So another con is there's no live updates of information. Once you write that information down and the ink dries, it's already stale and it's old. And you have to continually be writing that down every week or every month, whatever frequency you track your dividends for. So pros, very simple. You're in control of anything. Cons, a lot of manual work. It's a lot of like low value work too, grabbing information off of a website and like writing it down, and got a lot of human error potential. So I really don't recommend a notepad, but some people use it. So Excel. All right. A lot of people use Excel to track their dividends, and really this is the biggest innovation that Divcaster can build on top of is automating anything you're doing in Excel. So Excel is one step better than a notepad, in my opinion. You can automate your calculations using formulas. You have a detailed history of all that information in one place, and it's digital, so it travels with you. Let's say with the notepad example, a big con is you lose the notepad, you lose your entire history. So Excel spreadsheet, you can save in the cloud, you have it forever. Then you also have a lot more control over what calculations you'd like to see. You can see sums, you can see averages, you can see medians, and there's a lot of functionality that you can do with Excel. But once again, cons, you have to enter all of that data manually. It's a lot of manual data entry, and I'm pretty sure you can hire someone on Upwork or another service like that to do manual data entry for about $12 an hour. So if you value your time higher than $12 an hour, then anything that's manual data entry is probably not right for you. Another big con, it requires learning how to use and manipulate Excel. I took an entire college course on doing Excel, and I am nowhere near an expert, but it still takes me a good amount of time, and I don't feel super proficient with it. So that's one big con. It can be pretty time consuming. Once again, time consuming to figure out how to use Excel, to figure out how to manipulate the data. And then it does not live update the information. Once you put in that information, it becomes stale. So Excel, one step better than a notepad, and it can automate some calculations. It can give you cool graphing, charts, stuff like that. But once again, it's a lot of data, manual data entry, and Excel can be complicated, and there's a high bar for learning how to use it. So that brings me to Divcaster. And Divcaster is, in my opinion, one step better than Excel because it has live data, so the data doesn't get stale, and it can automate a lot of that data entry and tracking and formula manipulation. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Divcaster. Can everybody see my Divcaster screen? Just go ahead and type in the chat if you can see it. Cool. Awesome. So here is the portfolio homepage. And on the portfolio homepage, you're going to see a lot of different data. You're going to see a lot of different numbers, charts, stuff like this. And so really simply, Divcaster is broken into two functionalities. It's going to forecast your dividend earnings for the next 12 months. So you see here, it's March 21 to Feb 22. And then it's going to track all of your historical income for the last 10 years. And so the forecast chart is broken down into different months, and you can hover over the month and you can see the estimated income and how many dividends you're going to receive, an estimate. So then you can click on the eyeball and it'll show you all of the tickers, all of the ex-dividend dates, and all of the payment dates and the income you're forecasted to earn. And so all in one place, you can get a really good snapshot of which stocks are paying you, how much they're paying you, when they're going to pay you, and when that money should hit your brokerage account. And, at a glance, if I'm optimizing for income, I might not want to own this stock, or I might not own enough of it. It's only a 47-cent dividend payment. I'm not really going to be able to do much with that. So you get a lot of really great information right at the tips of your fingers. Here is the sum of the forecast the next 12 months. Here's my average monthly income. Here's my portfolio yield. And then my year-to-date income earned. And so you can see these percentages right here. These really show you how much, what is the growth rate or the percentage change from some other number. So forecasted income, this is my year over year. Forecasted growth rate. Here is what March's income is relative to my average. So you see March was just slightly higher than my average. And this really gives you, if you want to have a consistent monthly income, it can kind of show you where your low months are, where maybe you need to add some payments, or where your high months are, where maybe you can move some holdings around so you're getting a more consistent income. Here's the portfolio yield, and I compare this to S&P 500. So my yield is 21% higher. And year-to-date income earned. So that's pretty simple. From January 1st to today, how much money has come in? And so how do you get the stocks into the portfolio? So you can see I have a lot of different stocks in here, and you have 3 different choices. So first choice is a manual transaction. You can create the transaction. Let's say I bought Apple. So you type in AAPL, you'll select it, you'll click it, and it's a purchase. Let's say I bought 100 shares, and I bought them way back in the day in March of 2017. And I paid, Apple was been trading for like $40 back then, pre-split. And I can add the transaction. And so once I add this transaction, it'll populate inside of the dividend earnings chart, the forecast chart, and in the historical income chart. So you can see my forecasted income increased, my average monthly income increased, and we can find, where are you? Way down here, we can find my latest transaction that I added. Here it is right here. So adjusted for the split. So the second way you can add transactions is through a CSV import. It's this button right here. And a CSV, so real quick, the pros of a manual transaction is it's really quick, really simple. If you don't have a lot of current transactions, or you're very new to dividend investing, or you don't make a lot of trades, manual transaction can mostly handle what you need. Some cons, once again, it still works. You got to keep up with it. And if you have a ton of transactions, it's not really right for you. So the next option is an importing of a CSV. And so a CSV is a type of Excel file, and all brokerage accounts can export your transaction files and or a portfolio snapshot. And you can directly upload that right into Divcaster. It's really great if you have a mature portfolio. Maybe you've been investing for 5 years, 2 years, 10 years, and you can't possibly enter all those transactions manually. I would definitely recommend a CSV import. So I have a bunch of training videos that you can watch to see how to do the import CSV. I'm not going to cover it in this walkthrough because it can get a little too ticky-tacky, and I want to keep this high level. So the next way to import a portfolio is to directly link it with your brokerage account. And this is by far the simplest way. So this is going to be March 21 walkthrough. And you'll see right here, it says connect new account, and then, or use an existing connected investment institution. So I have my TD Ameritrade account connected already. And what it does is you can type in your credentials, and we use a third-party service called Plaid. And Plaid is kind of like the digital plumbing of the financial universe. You probably used Plaid multiple times without ever knowing it. And you can connect almost any brokerage account. And Plaid is very secure. Divcaster does not see any of your login credentials. We never get it. We never see it. It goes straight through Plaid. And what you do is you select your institution and you enter in your login credentials and you hit submit, and then you can choose which portfolios of yours you want to import. And Plaid is going to be the easiest, simplest way to import a portfolio. You won't get the detailed history like you would from a CSV import, but every single transaction after you import it will be recorded. So Jess typed in the chat, is it useful if you're reinvesting dividends? Yes, this is still a very useful way to track your dividends, and connecting your portfolio, your brokerage account through Plaid, all of those dividend reinvestments will automatically come into Divcaster. Every single trade you make will automatically come into Divcaster. So it's the most friction-free way to manage a portfolio on Divcaster. Anybody have any questions about uploading transactions before I move on? Nope. Okay, cool. So next I want to go over, we went over the forecast chart right here. Next, I want to go over the historical income. And when we first launched Divcaster, there was very little attention paid to income, dividends from most of the brokerage accounts. And that's changing a little bit as the brokerage fees have disappeared. It's interesting to note because a brokerage used to be optimized for getting us to trade as much as possible so they could rake in all of those trading fees. And buy and hold dividend stock investors were not their target market. So as fees go down, they've started incorporating some features for dividend investors, like a very simple forecast chart. But I've yet to see a historical income chart. And as a dividend investor, we need to use essentially this chart, the historical income chart, as our, let's call it our chart of truth. And so the chart of truth, what I mean by that is, how do we measure success as an income investor? Well, we measure it by how much cash is coming into our account every month, every quarter, and is that number growing? So this chart in 5 seconds can show you if you've been successful at being an income investor. Because if this line is going up and to the right, then you know that you're being successful because more cash is coming in from the stocks that you own. Let's say this line maybe starts up here and then it goes down and to the right. Something's wrong. You're not getting as much money. Maybe stocks are cutting dividends and you're not replacing them. But if this line's going up and to the right, then you're good. And so you can see last 5 years, I've averaged 14% dividend growth. Last 10 years, it's 0 because I don't have 10 years of history. And then last year with coronavirus was a little bit of a bump. And then down here, you'll see the dividend growth potential. So dividend growth is one of the most important things that we can optimize for as income investors. And this gives a very simple chart to forecast, hey, if my portfolio continues to grow at a similar rate, where is it going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? And another thing that Divcaster optimizes for is long-term success. So we all ride the emotional wave of the stock market. Stocks go up, we're all super happy, excited, FOMO, stocks go down, we're nervous. Do we sell? Do we get out? Is there going to be more downside ahead? But if we kind of zoom out of that emotional roller coaster, we see that all things being equal, the stock market goes up and to the right. So values increase over time. And we want to ride that roller coaster for as long as possible. The longer we ride the roller coaster, the more our earnings will compound. Divcaster really zooms us out and it shows us what's most important. It does not, I'm not showing the day-to-day price swings anywhere on here. You can still see the price right here of all the investments, but you're not seeing in big bold letters or numbers minus $5,000 on the day, or even plus $10,000 on the day, because those numbers don't really matter to measure success for income investors. What matters are these numbers up here. These are the numbers that matter. How much money is coming in from which stocks, and is that more or less than what came in year over year? That's really what Divcaster helps you optimize for in a very short amount of time, because all of the information that's most important is right here, right in front of us. We don't have to dig for it. We don't have to do any manual calculations. It's right here. So John asked, will reinvested dividends come in regularly if you used a CSV? So John, a CSV is a one-time import. You can do it multiple times, as many times as possible, but let's say I import it today. For me to capture any of the transactions that happen over the next 60 days, 90 days, 180 days, I'd have to re-import another CSV to capture all the transactions that happen between today and that point in the future. If you have a lot of stocks on manual reinvestment, I could not recommend Plaid more. It's a huge time saver. The Plaid brokerage account linked with Divcaster. That's a huge time saver, automates everything, super easy. So another feature of Divcaster is you can have unlimited amounts of portfolios. So you might want portfolios for your accounts. You might want portfolios for a spouse if you manage theirs, or a parent or a child, or a 401k or an IRA. You might have multiple portfolios across different brokerage accounts, and you can link each different one with a separate portfolio. You can have them all in one, and it really puts all of your data in one place. If you have multiple, so let's say your 401k is with, I don't know, we have one with Transamerica. So one's with Transamerica, and then your personal brokerage accounts with Schwab, and then your IRA is with TD Ameritrade. And so you're constantly logging into different brokerage accounts. No, you don't need to do that. You can just have everything right here. Any questions about the forecast chart, the historical income chart, before I move on? Nope. Okay. So next piece I'm going to dive into is the portfolio stats. And so just from a broad view, there's a lot of numbers, a lot of information, but really what the purpose of this portfolio page is to single out the most important information for income investors to look at a glance. And that information is going to be different than what your brokerage account shows you. I use TD Ameritrade, and TD Ameritrade shows me the price, quantity, return, and day-to-day change. That's it. That's all their portfolio page shows me. That's what it's optimized for. And that's not going to be the right information for a dividend investor, because one, it can spur those short-term emotions that encourage us to make bad decisions, like short-term focused decisions. And it totally misses the point of what a successful income investor is optimizing for. So you'll see here on the left are all of the different companies. Here's the tickers inside the box. We have the name of the stock. We have the current price. We have the day over day change. And then we have the weighting in my total portfolio. So Apple is 17% of my portfolio. And then we have this trash can icon, and the trash can icon just deletes all of the ticker information. Then when I click this arrow, it actually breaks down every single transaction I've made into a separate row. So this is another piece of information and data that TD Ameritrade does not break out for me. Let's say we've been investing for years, which I hope is the goal of everybody on this call, is to develop a long-term habit of investing in the markets. Investing is not a 1-month hobby or a 3-month hobby. To be successful at investing, it needs to be a lifelong hobby. This is something where the longer you've been doing it, the higher and better your returns are, the more they compound. Staying in the game is the most important part of investing. And so that's why we split out every single transaction, so you can see, okay, cool. When I bought 100 shares of Apple on that dip that I remembered from last year, here's how it's doing. Here's how much income I've earned. Here's the yield on cost. And so I'll get into that in a second. But the real important part is you can get a snapshot of every single purchase you've made and the impact that that purchase has had on your portfolio. So once again, a lot of what Divcaster does is it optimizes behavior for long-term success. So you can also see these little pencil icons. These just simply let you edit the transaction. Let's say you fudged a number or something like that, you can edit it. Next, we have quantity. So quantity is simply how many shares do I own? Pretty simple. Average cost per share. So this $121 is my cost basis. So out of all 551 shares, what's my average price I paid? But it's helpful to know when I break this out, if I paid more or less for my other shares. So you can see, okay, on 11/12/2020, I bought one share for $119. On 11/24/2020, I bought 100 shares for $250. And that breaks that out into every single different transaction. Then we have dividend yield. Dividend yield is very straightforward. That's the yield the Apple pays on the current price. Then we have return. And so return in Divcaster is going to mean something different than if you look at the very end of the screen, gain loss. So gain loss is more traditionally what your brokerage account will show you. It's what did I pay, or what is it worth today minus what I paid for the shares. And you can see here my gain loss is minus 0.26%, but my return is 5.25%. So what's the difference between these two data points is return is going to show me my return when I factor in the dividend payments. And so on your brokerage account, because they only do a simple gain loss, at least for most brokerage accounts, it's totally missing the impact that dividends are having on your total return. So once again, you're not getting a complete comparison of success. And so this return column is going to show you what is my return when I factor in the dividends paid, which I could bring up a chart of the S&P 500 returns. And you'll see how big of an impact that makes. Let's see if this is the right one. So S&P 500, just straight line here. S&P 500 with dividends reinvested. You can see how much of a difference that made. So not tracking your dividends or not factoring them into the total return is not giving you a complete picture of the success or failure of your investing. Next, we have total income earned. Pretty simple. Since my first purchase of this stock, how much has it paid me in dividends? And I know I got 2 questions so far about reinvesting dividends. This column is not going to be affected by reinvesting dividends. It's still going to count how much you've earned in dividends. And you can almost think of this, if you're reinvesting dividends, of how much money, how much free shares of stock have I been able to purchase by reinvesting dividends? And then if you're not reinvesting dividends, this is how much cash has been deposited into my brokerage account from just owning this stock. And once again, a lot of what we're doing here is to encourage long-term success. And the longer you hold on to a stock, the higher that number is going to get if they continue to pay and grow their dividends. Then we have yield on cost. And yield on cost is a very important metric to track for income investors. You'll notice that yield on cost is going to be different than dividend yield. So dividend yield is, what is the payment? So annual dividend divided by share price, that's dividend yield. Yield on cost is going to be annual dividend divided by the price that you paid. So one is dividend yield is a snapshot of the ratio today of the annual dividend and today's current share price. Yield on cost is the ratio of the annual dividend paid and then what you paid for the stock. And so I keep going back to this idea of why we're tracking multiple transactions. And so you can get multiple yield on cost. Let me find another one with a bunch of transactions. Nope. So you can get a bunch of, you can see with multiple transactions how that yield on cost is going to move over time. I can't, NRZ, nope. I'll have to find it later. So yield on cost is going to say, okay, what is the yield that this stock is paying today based on what I paid for it? And so this is going to, once again, encourage users to buy on dips, buy when stock prices are low, buy when that yield increases. And then as the stock price increases, your yield on cost is going to go much higher than the dividend yield. Rest of the columns are pretty straightforward. Annual dividend, that's just the cash dividend paid per share. Cost, that is quantity times average cost. Value, that will be quantity times today's current share price. And then gain and loss is going to be the difference between value and cost. So then at the bottom, you can see we kind of sum it up or average it. So this will be my portfolio yield here at the bottom, portfolio return, my total income earned. That's a sum of all income earned from stocks I've owned. My total annual dividend, that's also per share. My total cost, my total value, my total gain loss. Anybody have any questions about the portfolio stats? I saw one question come through. Donald Johnson. Donald asked, does it have option for yield on what you originally invested, or does it include the cost of reinvested dividends? Donald, I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that. Yield on cost is going to give you the yield on what you originally invested. That's what that does. I'm not sure what you mean by the second half of the question, or does it include the cost of reinvested dividends? Mostly brokerages don't charge a fee for automatically reinvesting dividends. So I'm not sure if I get that. Maybe if you can clarify that, I can answer it better. But yield on cost is how I use this metric, is the effectiveness of buying the dip. If my yield on cost is significantly higher than my dividend yield, then I know that I've effectively purchased shares of stocks when they've gone down and then ridden them back up while still collecting income. So Mary Ann asks, does gain loss include dividends? No, gain loss is purely value minus cost. And return right here, this fourth column is going to be the return calculation, including dividends paid. So another feature that we just added and that we're working on right now is adding individual stock data into Divcaster. So if you go ahead and click on the ticker, it'll take you to a page that shows all the different stats. It'll show you market cap, it'll show you dividend growth, it'll show you the stock beta, it'll show you a dividend growth chart so you can see if a stock is growing their dividends, shrinking their dividends. It'll also show you their payment schedule. So at a really quick glance, you can do some pretty simple stock research. And we're investing a lot of time into developing this page even further and providing a lot of value for our users and subscribers. So Donald's asking, if I invested $1,000 on 10 shares and it paid me $5 in dividends, it would show the cost as $1,005. No, Donald. If it paid you $5 in dividends, those $5 would show up in the total income earned column, and they would affect the return. So those $5 would be counted as a return included. So it wouldn't show up as a cost. So next, I want to go over what if scenarios. And so more features of Divcaster are going to be about how to make decisions, make better decisions, make more informed decisions, and what if scenarios are a key part of that. So up here in the top right, you'll see what if scenarios, and you'll see this box. I'm gonna go ahead and click this box, and it's gonna open up the what if scenario manager. And so a what if scenario is exactly that. It's what if I did XYZ with my portfolio? So what if I sold Apple and bought AbbVie? These are just the two top ones right here. So what you use a what if scenario for is seeing what changes to your portfolio will do to your income and to your value, your total portfolio value. And so let's say I sold half of my Apple. So I sold 275 of my Apple and I'm left with 275. And then I doubled my AbbVie. So AbbVie trades for, what was it, $106 or something like that. And Apple's roughly the same. So it'll be about the same dollar amount. So I'm going to double it to $200. You also have the choice to add tickers. So I know a lot of Divcaster users are Dividend Hunter users as well. And so let's say Tim comes out with a new stock of the week and you want to see what that would do for your portfolio from income wise. You could type it in. You could say, okay, let me add a ticker. I think it was ABR that Tim mentioned this week. I could add ABR, add it, and see what that would do. But I'm going to go ahead and plot this scenario. And it's going to show up in the forecast page. And so it comes up right here. And it has all of my portfolio right here. And it says total cost to implement. I'm scrolling down to the bottom. Negative $26,000. So I'll actually receive $26,000 in cash when I execute this trade pair, selling Apple, buying AbbVie. And let's see what it does to my income. So you'll see these blue charts here. This turquoise one is my original portfolio, and this purpley one, periwinkle maybe, is going to be the what if scenario I just charted. So you'll see that my total 12-month income will go up by about $300. So it's about $300 more. My average monthly income is going to go up. My portfolio yield went up, and my year-to-date income earned would go up slightly. And you can see here, it's going to pay me more in my May, August, and November slots, which could be interesting for me. And so if you're a high yield income investor or you're a dividend investor, what if scenarios give you a really easy tool to do portfolio planning, assess new investments from the lens of how it affects your income, which is really the lens of all dividend investors need to be approaching their portfolio management from. Because as I've shared in this webinar, the yardstick, the measurement of success for an income investor is going to be different. And because it's different, we have to focus on what's most important, which is the details here: dividend yield, return, income earned, yield on cost, rather than the gain loss. Anybody have any questions about the what if scenarios? Nope. One of my favorite ways to use what if scenarios is with Tim's stock of the week. So if Tim sends out a stock of the week and I'd like to see how adding that to my portfolio, or maybe selling a lower yield stock and adding that stock, affects my income, I'll use a what if scenario for that. And you can have up to 3 what if scenarios running at one time. So I can add one more and I can add another one. So next is going to be notifications. We have a notification center here in Divcaster, and it'll tell you, when you get paid dividends. It'll tell you dividend growth. It'll tell you dividend cuts. It'll share a lot of the different data, and we're working on a lot of updates for this right now. We're totally overhauling all of the notifications and really focused on, once again, how do we support all of our users with long-term income investing success. So last piece is the Dividend Hunter. So if you're a Dividend Hunter member, you can actually get the entire Dividend Hunter portfolio in Divcaster. And so what it does is it'll take your my portfolio value and it'll split it evenly across every single Dividend Hunter stock that's currently recommended. So you can see how much more or less income you would earn than your current portfolio. So you can see here, if I split my holdings, my portfolio across the Dividend Hunter completely, it would almost double my income over the next 12 months. So that's really cool to see. And then you can also you can copy this to a new portfolio. So if you have a bunch of Dividend Hunter stocks or you want to do more research on them, you can do that. You can copy it. And then you can click on here. You can see all these different stats of these. So that is it from the walkthrough perspective. If you have any questions about this page, the portfolio, the income chart, the income charts, the what if scenarios, let me know. I'll go ahead and answer that. If not, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. Cool. So Divcaster is a separate membership than any of our other services. We've spent over $200,000 investing in software development, a team of software developers, updates, data, everything to even get Divcaster to where it is today. And it is a really cool project. I really love working on it. We have tons and tons and tons of testimonials, and a ton of people who have used Divcaster and really loved it. And really simply, Divcaster solves the problems with traditional tracking solutions and more. And if you use Divcaster, you get detailed 12-month income forecast, complete portfolio history of income earned, immediate and live updated stats. They update every single night for portfolio yield, year-to-date income earned, total income earned, income growth stats, and you get the flexibility to test out new portfolios and their impact on your income. So this webinar is a really quick overview of Divcaster. I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you would like to join Divcaster, I highly recommend adding it. We have a 14-day free trial, so no money risked. You can just go ahead and join. And then if you don't like it in 14 days, you can cancel it. And we also have a full 12-month money back guarantee. So you can join today, use Divcaster for 364 days, be like, nope, not for me. Give us a call, refund it completely. We lose money on that. We actually lose a good chunk of money on that. But I want to offer it to you just to reduce the friction to join, because I know that once you get in and start using Divcaster, you'll be like, wow, I don't know how I did it any other way. We have tons of resources to help you get set up. I make myself available over email. You actually get a personal email address for me to help answer questions. We have a massive library of support videos, which I can actually bring up because that is helpful to see. We have a huge library of support videos. Anything you want to know will be right here. You can say, okay, importing your portfolio Excel sheet. So this is the CSV import. I've spent countless hours making these, and they basically answer every single question that could possibly pop up. So we really take care of you. I know software can be intimidating, but we do everything I can to make it a very simple process. And then once you actually get set up with your portfolio, you can use Divcaster once a week, once every other week, once a month for 15 to 30 minutes. And you get that quick check-in. Hey, everything's good. Awesome. My income's growing. Awesome. What dividend payments are going to make next month? Awesome. Then you can go back to doing whatever you want, whatever it is that you really enjoy. And maybe you're still working, maybe you're traveling, maybe you want to start your own business. And Divcaster kind of takes care of the manual labor, so you can focus your time on the most high leverage activities that you want to embark on. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat. The link is going to be for a 14-day trial for Divcaster. You can fill out the form and give it a try for 14 days for free. And then it's $297 a year to be a full member and get all of the features I just shared today, plus all future updates. And so our next update is right around the corner. And let me just give you a sneak preview of what that update looks like. I'm actually going to log in really quick. And show you. And so once again, you can join now. You get a 14-day free trial. And over those 14 days, you can upload the portfolio. You get full access to everything. And if you like it, then you don't do anything. In 14 days, you'll automatically be billed for an annual subscription. And like I said, it comes with a full 1-year guarantee. Oh, it looks like I was going to show you the new homepage that we're building, and it's really cool. It has an entire calendar built into it. It looks like the devs might have moved it, so I can't find it. Oh, here it is. And when you join, you get access to every future update that we're going to have. And this update's in the works right now. You can see it creates a whole dashboard, so you can see every single portfolio summed up together. It creates a really nice calendar that you can see. So this kind of automates the monthly dividend paycheck calendar that you might have with Tim. And we're working on tons and tons and tons of new updates. We're always constantly working on updates, really with the help of our subscribers and the feedback we get from y'all. So like I said, after your trial ends, you're covered by a 12-month full money back guarantee. So you really have zero risk by joining today. The only risk that you have by not joining and not tracking your dividends. If anything, and you don't join Divcaster after this webinar, no problem, no big deal. I still implore you, if you are a dividend investor, to track your dividends. Because if you're not tracking your dividends, either, like I said in the beginning, on an Excel sheet or a notepad, you're not going to be in touch with the information and data that's most important to be successful. And if you're not in touch with that data and you're not focused on the right data, you're not going to know how to measure success. And if you can't measure success, you don't know if you're failing or you don't know if you're succeeding. So that's kind of it for today. I really thank you guys for joining. If you have more questions, I'll stick around for the next 5 minutes or so and answer them. But if you're ready to join, I dropped the link in the chat. It goes straight to an order form where you can start the 14-day free trial. And that's it. So if you have more questions, let me know. Donald Johnson's asking, for dividend reinvestments, does it factor in share count changing? So Donald, it's different for each way to add transactions. If you use Plaid and link your brokerage account to Divcaster, all dividend reinvestments will be automatically transferred into your portfolio. So no work added. But if you use the manual transactions, you have to type in the data of the dividend reinvestment. There's a couple reasons why. One, every single brokerage has a different method. So let's say we just took, hey, annual dividend or dividend payment received divided by how many shares did that buy me? Well, what share price we use is likely going to be different than the share price used by all the different brokerage accounts. So if you use Plaid, all dividend reinvestments will automatically be tracked. If you don't use Plaid, you have to manually put them in. So just to kind of wrap everything up, number one, most important thing, track your dividends. I don't care if you use Divcaster or not, just track your dividends, use an Excel spreadsheet, use a notepad, check and see that the income you're receiving is increasing, whether it's quarter over quarter or year over year. That's the most important thing that I hope you take from this webinar. Number two, Divcaster is a tool that you can use to help reinforce your long-term success. It's I don't want to call it a hack, but it's basically the easiest way for you to reinforce good behavior for long-term success as an income investor. And number three, I'd really love for people to give it a try it out for 14 days, see if it's right for you. Donald is asking about, can I import portfolios from Ameriprise? I've not heard of Ameriprise before, but I can check. So connect new account. There it is, Ameriprise. Cool. Plaid covers many, many, many brokerage accounts. It's very comprehensive. David Simpson is asking, did you say you can click on something in Divcaster and have it show all recommended stocks? Yes, if you're a Dividend Hunter member, you can click up here and you can see all of the Dividend Hunter current recommended stocks. Awesome, everybody. So I am going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for attending, watching, spending your time with me today. Go ahead and join Divcaster. Give it a whirl. With the 12-month money-back guarantee and the 14-day trial, you are covered from every angle. So there is almost zero risk to doing this. There's a lot to gain, very little to lose. And like I said, I make myself available for any questions. I do webinars like this almost every single month. So I do a lot of live trainings. We do constant updates on the app based on user feedback. So you're joining a community of users who are helping to build this tool to create long-term success. And I'd love to have you join. So thank you again for spending some time with me today. And I will be sending out a recording. And that is all. Everybody, hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll chat soon.